Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first installment of the Secrets of Master Salesmanship Masterclass, starring Napoleon Hill and myself, Thomas Faulkner. I'm going to be reading excerpts from the book and sharing a little bit of my experience, so hopefully you get some value out of this. There are 5 lessons total in the book, so this is going to be a 5-part series, and as you've probably noticed, I am in Subway. More on that to come, but first lesson, part 1, Secrets of Master Salesmanship, the 9 basic motives, okay? The first requirement of a master salesman is the necessary self-discipline to enable him to control his own mental attitude and keep it positive at all times when he is engaged in selling. And not just engaged in selling, that's your life. You've got to keep a positive mental attitude. And, you know, I was late to the game. I was one of the last horses to cross the finish line on this one, but thank goodness I did. And I've got to give a shout out to Tony McKinney. For years ago, I mean, it was over a decade ago that I first met the man, and he was the first one to be like, you're creating your reality through your thoughts, and if you continue to think negative thoughts and behave bad things are going to keep happening to you. You're going to keep looking for them, and they're going to keep happening. So thank you, Tony, for planting that seed all those years ago and allowing it to grow, and thank you for that, so that it helped me to push through the negativity and to see the beauty and the opportunity in the world. Right. Now, the second requirement is that he must recognize that there are 2 phases to all selling, one which takes place in the mind of the salesman himself before he ever comes into contact with his prospective buyer, and the other in the mind of the buyer, which the salesman has carefully conditioned for the planting of adequate motive for buying, right? So before he calls on his prospective buyer, he sits down in his own office and talks to the prospect as if the prospects were actually there in the office with him. He goes over his sales talk several times, asking questions and answering them the way he wishes them answered. So you've got to think about every objection that somebody could possibly have to your product or service or idea, and you've got to practice responding and giving answers and overcoming those objections before they come up. You've got to have them practiced in your head so that when you deliver an answer or you deliver a rebuttal, you can do it smoothly and accurately and without little ums in the middle, right? And I know that I'm one of those people. I say I try not to. I try not to say try either, right? But you do or you do not. There is no try. In the end, you're either going to do it or you aren't going to do it. So focus on ums and making sure that they don't find their way into your sales presentation, because it will make you look like you're unprepared. Come on. Right. The conditioning of a prospective buyer's mind takes place first by telepathy, while the salesman is conditioning his own mind, and second by the magnetic influence of the salesman as indicated by the tone of his voice and the expression on his face when making his sales presentation. So, be enthusiastic, not overly enthusiastic, be enthusiastic about things, and use, good tonality so that people know that you're genuine, and use the correct tonality for certain situations. A lot of people don't know the difference between being facetious and being sarcastic. How you doing today? Oh, I'm doing great, right? Is obviously a sarcastic tone. Or you could be facetious, and you could not mean I'm doing great, but you could say, I'm doing great. That's facetious because you're not really doing great, but that's not a sarcastic tone. It's almost a rude tone. So avoid tones that are going to offset your customer and offend them in some way. Answer questions the way you would want them answered, and use tonality with your customers that you would want and what you think that they would want. Because in the end, the golden rule is not treat others the way you want to be treated. The golden rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. And some people want to be treated differently than other people because everybody's different. So, all right, so next thing you need to know is no one ever buys anything without motive. The motive many times may not be sound or adequate, as in the case of the buyer whose only motive for buying is that he believes he's getting a bargain or something for less than its actual value, right? But there are 9 basic motives which are responsible for practically all human selections, including that of buying. The art of tactfully planting these motives in the mind of prospective buyers is what differentiates a master salesman from the mere order taker, right? And it's inception. Part of sales, is breaking old beliefs and patterns and habits, because in the end, if someone says that they can't afford what you're offering, that's their belief, is that they can't afford it. But in the end, if they had some kind of an emergency and they needed to find that kind of money somewhere, they would. And, necessity is the mother of all invention. And so you're planting necessity. You're putting in their head not just that it's something that is going to benefit them, but something that they can afford. They've got an external circumstance like their budget, right? But they've also got the internal circumstance, which is they don't believe that they can afford it. Even though they might be able to, they might have been told by their family or somebody at one point or another, like, don't get overextended and you can't afford blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, life is what you make out of it, and you can afford anything you want to afford as long as you actually want to do it and you put your mind to it. So the 9 basic motives, master salesmanship, and doubtlessly he will remember that his mental attitude was positive, plenty of enthusiasm while he was presenting his talk. So now, you have struck a chord with any of these 9 basic motives if you've ever sold anything, or it was just a transactional thing. They just needed it, like they came in to buy a loaf of bread. They just needed it that badly. But number 1, the emotion of love, right? Number 2, the emotion of sex. Number 3, the desire for monetary gain. Number 4, the desire for self-preservation or life. Number 5, the desire for freedom of body and mind. Number 6, the desire for self-expression. And number 7, the desire for perpetuation of life after death, right? And then number 8, the emotion of anger. Now, what it says on anger is master salesmen sometimes use this motive in order to get action from a non-committal type of prospective buyer who hesitates to say either yes or no. It is also used widely by politicians in selling themselves in the public office by arousing the anger of people against their opponents, but this practice is highly negative and it often has unsavory representations which affect those who use it to their detriment, right? So those are the motivations. That's 8 of them. And then the 9th one is fear. And you'll notice that there are 7 basic fears, and they kind of coincide. They're almost like the reversal. If you know the 48 laws of power and the reversals, the fears that people have are often, the antithesis of their desires. So 7 basic fears. Number 1, poverty. Number 2, illness. Number 3, loss of a loved one or someone. Number 4, criticism. People are afraid of being criticized. That's why the biggest fear in the world is public speaking, because people don't want to be criticized. And then number 5, loss of liberty. People are afraid of losing their liberties and their freedoms. And then number 6, old age. People are afraid of old age. And of course, number 7, death. People are afraid of death. And you're not just afraid of dying, but you're afraid of growing old and what that means for you and for your ego and your body, right? Now, he goes on to tell this great story. One day, 20 years ago, a life insurance underwriter walked into my office unannounced, handed me the gallery proof of a newspaper article he had prepared for publication in some 600 newspapers, and asked if I would read it and make any corrections which I might believe would improve it. So ordinarily, he says, the audacity of this man would have been resented to his detriment, but one look at the headline, which was in large type, softened me to a friendly listening attitude. So he put this article in the newspaper about Napoleon Hill without talking to Napoleon Hill, and he was just like, hey, here's this article, let me know if anything needs to be corrected in it. And he was appealing to number 6, the motive number 6, which is the desire for self-expression. So it says Napoleon Hill, the title of the article said, Napoleon Hill, world famous author, insures his brains for $1 million. So it went on to talk about him, and he had spent several weeks gathering the necessary material with which to write the article, and he arranged with a newspaper syndicate to publish it in 600 newspapers, right? So master salesmanship is never a matter of haphazard sales technique. It is always based on a well-organized plan and voicing adequate motives to influence the purchaser's decision to buy. So the article flattered Napoleon like so much that he was like, okay, I'll buy insurance from you. Like he foreshadowed it. He put it in the newspaper that Napoleon had bought life insurance before Napoleon had even bought life insurance. And the crazy thing is that just from this article, other people came to him like, hey, Napoleon Hill bought life insurance, huh? I want to buy life insurance from you too, just because of that. That's basically a referral, but it's when people have testimonial. It was a great testimonial, and it never even happened, but he was so confident, and he sent out that signal so strongly that even Napoleon Hill couldn't resist it. So if I were asked to define master salesmanship in one brief sentence, it would be this: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve, right? An article to follow this one will describe the technique through which master salesmen have applied the foregoing philosophy with tolling effects, including the story of how I sold over 500 of the top-ranking successful men of America on collaborating with me without money, without price, over a long period of years, and giving the world the first practical philosophy of personal achievement called the science of success, right? And lastly, the story of how I borrowed $100,000 from a firm which didn't have a dime with the aid of salesmanship and made the deal pay off handsomely for both of us. Impossible transactions. Some years ago, a group of my students gave me a very fine dictionary. The first thing I did after receiving it will give you an idea of what I think about the word impossible. I opened the dictionary, located this word, and clipped it out with my penknife. To this day, those who work with me show me great respect by never using it. So he never uses the word impossible, right? Everything's possible when you think about it. We are creating our reality through our thoughts and consciousness. So when I was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to organize and give the world the first practical philosophy of personal achievement, everyone who knew me, especially my closer relatives, said it would be impossible for one person to accomplish such a Herculean task with an average lifetime, especially one who had no money and not too much education. But fortunately for me and several million others who have benefited by my work, there were two people who said it could be done, and I believed them. I went to work in the face of almost insurmountable obstacles, and what happened to me is the same as that which happens to anyone who knows what he wants, believes he can and will get it, and refuses to quit when the going becomes hard, as it generally does at the outset of any new enterprise. So those who wish to allow themselves to be influenced by the word impossible are welcome to their privilege. Personally, my philosophy of life is founded on the word belief, right? We should walk by faith, not fear, right? And I sincerely hope to rub some of this philosophy on every reader who is ready to switch over and get on the success beam with me. So there you have it. Number 1, first section, Master Salesmanship Secrets from Napoleon Hill. So it is something that I've touched on before, is your mental attitude, and your every thought and every word creates a vibration in the ether, which is going to either collapse the wave function and create a new reality for you, or keep you on the same timeline. So I believe that's everything I have for you guys. Love and gratitude to you all. I hope you got some value out of this, and check out the book if you need to. Otherwise, pop back in, and I'm going to be doing section 2 here in the next couple of days. Hopefully, maybe the next week. We'll see how it goes with 4 kids and everything like that. But I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and y'all be blessed.